Are you ready for high-speed motorsports talk about your local short track? You've come to the right place. Get ready to hear from some of the top stars of Seekonk Speedway right here on the Race Day Rewind podcast series. We'll hear it all, from pure excitement to disappointment of coming so close, the frustrations of contact on the track, and the thrill of winning a race or a championship. The Seekonk Speedway podcast series is a production of Souza Media. Now let's get to the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Seekonk Speedway podcast series. The Action Track podcast is back in prime form, and we are getting ready for another edition of the Race Day Rewind report from what was a very wet Friday night at Seekonk Speedway on Friday night, August the 5th, and a very hot but beautiful Saturday night event on August the 6th. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Action Track podcast. If you're not familiar with the Action Track podcast, my name is Kyle Souza, the owner of Souza Media. We are very happy to have you here listening to our show as we recap all of the racing action that has taken place here over the last couple of weeks at Seekonk Speedway. We do this once a week on most weeks to recap what's going on, and we will also preview what's coming up most often here on the podcast. So there's a lot going on here on this platform, and I want to thank Sam and Brady for jumping on board again here in this week's edition to recap some of the racing action. I'm going to start with Brady, our co-announcer on Friday. Of course, Kevin Boucher, the race voice, is the announcer on Friday and Saturdays both. These gentlemen kind of flop back and forth between Friday and Saturday. Brady takes care of Friday, and Sam takes care of Saturday. We'll get him in the next segment of the show, but we'll start with Brady as we recap the racing again from Friday night, August the 5th. I mentioned Mother Nature. Yeah, she really wet the Speedway very, very, very much. I mean, a lot of water. Really a river came down at the third mile to start the night. We got a little bit of practice in. It started pouring. We started drying the track. Then it started pouring again. And I was pretty convinced that we were going to have to go home for the night. There was a lot of water, but obviously some great work by our track personnel to get the facility ready to go racing. And we did a quick 5-lap practice session for each division. And the first race to hit the track, a little bit of a different order here due to Mother Nature. It was the Everett's Auto Parts Sport 4. Now, this was Everett's Auto Parts Championship weekend at Seekonk Speedway for the Triple Crown Series. Of course, that both across Friday and Saturday night. And Friday, 5 races, 5 Triple Crown champions crowned at the end of it. And Brady, in the Everett's Auto Parts Sport 4 division, it's AJ Manuel starting in the rear once again, driving his way to the front, and really leaving no question that he was going to be the driver to win that Phil's crown. 3 races this year for him, 3 feature wins, and what he says, Brady, to be a farewell season. He's all done racing in the Sport 4 division. He's not ruling out anything down the line, possibly, but all done with the Sport 4s, and what a heck of a way to go out here in victory lane and with the Triple Crown title.
Yeah, if this is it, then it's been one great career for AJ Manuel. He fully, at least for the last 2 races, fully deserved. Started in the rear, that's in round 2. And I say rear, I mean he was the last car. He started scratch. And then this one, he started 13th on the grid. And I remember Kevin asked me, he said, "Who do you like?" I said, "I like Manuel." He was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Just watch." And AJ won. But it doesn't take away from some other performances. Crystal Murray finishing in 3rd and just extending her lead in our point standings for the Sunoco Drive for the Cup over Tyler Duhanchik. So AJ, I mean, going out in quite, I don't know if you could go out in a better way. Running 3 races and winning 3 times. But again, just in all, a great career for AJ. And if he has something up his sleeve, can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah, you never know in racing. I've heard a lot of drivers say they're all done, and then a while later, here they come back in a different division. I'm not sure for AJ. Of course, going to be expecting his first child with his wife Ashley later on this season. So obviously going to take focus on that, and he's also a big part of the Murray crew on both Friday and Saturday with Crystal and Richie Murray. So he's going to be busy still at the track no matter what, but a great way to go out as a driver. He also wins that Everett's Auto Parts. Phil's Propane, our former Triple Crown sponsor. While I say it, want to thank Everett's Auto Parts for coming on board to sponsor the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown in 2022. It was a great year of Triple Crown racing, and AJ was the first driver to take down the Triple Crown Championship in 2022. So congrats to AJ, picks up the win and the Triple Crown title. Of course, that bubble race we've been talking about very often here in the podcast, that 8th position in the Everett's Auto Parts Sport Fours is the final spot for you to make it in to the playoff run here coming up in September. Right now, 8th place, Stephanie Bruno has a comfortable lead over Justin Leduc. It's about 40 points. The top 8 in the Sport 4 division pretty well set here with 3 weeks to go. Crystal Murray, Tyler Duhanchik, Henry LaValle, Jared Freitas, Carlin Levesque, Taylor Bowser, Daniel Hayes, and Stephanie Bruno. Now, the only caveat in this is Carlin Levesque is 5th in points and sold his car. He's not going to be running any more races. He has a 100-point gap over Justin Leduc for the 9th position. Justin Leduc, with 3 races to go, 100 divided by 3, he needs 33 points per race to get into the playoffs. I'm going to say he gets there, but that's going to be very interesting to watch here as Levesque has moved on from the Sport 4. So we'll see how that goes here over the next couple of weeks. Let's move on to the other feature race in the Triple Crown Championship. That was the Helger South Coast Power Equipment Pure Stocks, the second race of the night on Friday. And for the 3rd time this season, Mike Henricks parks the 03 in victory lane. Now, Mike was not part of the Final 4 in the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown, so this was just a, let's call it a regular feature win for the driver of the number 03. But a very shocking year for him so far. Usually, years ago, Mike Henricks was able to win in September. He would never get a win until the month of September. Now he's got 3 feature wins here as we roll into the middle of the month of August. The Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown Series Championship in this one was between Danny Massa, Greg Perry, Sam Lincoln, and one other driver that's escaping my head at the moment was also part of the Triple Crown. And I believe, Brady, do you know who the other 4 was in the Triple Crown? I'm spacing.
I think it was Timmy Olet.
Timmy Olet, that was the other one. Brady's correct. Thank you, Brady. And in the end, it was a race for second that decided the Triple Crown, and it's Sammy Lincoln picking up the Triple Crown Championship. Sam told me in the post-race interview in Victory Lane just after it, this is the first time I've won anything. And, hey, what a way to pick up a win, Brady. Triple Crown Championship for Sam, who's been very fast all year. There's no turning away what he's been able to do here so far in 2022.
No, he's come very, very close many times. And I think, to finally see him win a trophy is really, really encouraging. And, it's his first year in the Pure Stock, and he was just looking for some momentum as he currently sits second in our point standings. And, he's right behind Danny Massa, who, as usual, is having a great campaign. Danny's won one race this year. Greg Perry, Mike Henricks, who have won two and 3 races respectively, sit 3 and 4. So you're gonna wonder now, because I'm looking at that top 3, right? If Greg Perry's at 412 in points and Danny Mass is at 440. So I mean, say Danny misses a week and Greg wins, that really shakes up the entire race. What do you think about it? Because now Danny, who has led all season, he's now going to play catch up. Sam Lincoln might have a chase for first. Greg Perry was probably going to be first. So as much as we want to focus on that, how tight the position is on the top, it's not that far off on the bottom either, with Mike Rotundo leading Jared Cordera by 4 points for 7th place, and then Ethan Souza on the outside looking in by only 14 points. Ethan's won a race this year. People forget that. Ethan has won a race, so if he can make it another one, and Jared, again, has a bad week, finds himself maybe top 13 instead of his regular top 10, top 8, then we could see Ethan Souza deserving and getting his spot in the drive for the Cup.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different storylines there. You mentioned the race at the top of the championship standings, which, it matters and it doesn't at this point of the season given the playoffs. I think it more matters for some of these guys' momentum. Like if Danny Massa can seal off this regular season at the end of August and lead the championship, that's going to give him a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum going into the playoff stretch. So I think there's a lot of stories in the pure stock division that really I could see a variety of different drivers winning this championship. Right now you got Danny Massa, Sam Lincoln, Greg Perry, Mike Henricks, Jeremy Lambert, Jordan Threlfall, Mike Rotundo, and Jared Cordera are those 8 cars. You mentioned Ethan, blah, 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 blah. Ethan Souza is just a few points out as they sit right now, only 14 points, which is only 7 positions on the racetrack. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different guys here that could win this. Nick Brightman is only 30. Let me see, about 32 points out, so there's still an odds-on chance he could jump his way in. But really, to me, it's going to come down to Rotundo, Cadera, and Souza. 2 of those 3 drivers are going to make the playoffs. 1 isn't. That's just the way I look at it. So, yeah, pure stock racing lately has been aggressive, to say the least. And we're going to see how it goes again coming up this Friday night. Congrats to Sam Lincoln on the Triple Crown title. And congrats to your winner for the 3rd time this year, Mike Henricks, in the 03. Brady, let's move on to the Seekonk Grand Prix Bandolero classes, both of them. Let's start off with the Outlaws. They were first up for their Bandolero race on Friday night. No surprise here. For the 7th time this season, Chase Sylvia picks up the feature win in the number 17. Man, he has been flying this year. And with that win, he also picks up the 2022 Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown Championship. Bradley Strickland finished second and really gave Sylvia a run for his money here in the final 2 or 3 laps, right up to the bumper. Wasn't able to get there, but a nice, solid second-place finish for him. Andrew Gomes finished in the 3rd spot in the number 10. Mikey Lafort was 4th, his 3rd consecutive top 5. And Adam Harrison rounded out the top 5. Brady, I don't want to hitch too much on Chase Sylvia because that kid has just been on fire this year. The story to me in these Bandolero divisions right now is the race for the 6th spot. Remember, the Bandolero divisions, there's only 6 drivers to make the Seekonk Speedway Drive for the Cup presented by Sunoco Race Fuel. And right now, Bradley Strickland is 14 points behind Mikey Lafort as they sit in the championship battle to make it into the playoffs. That is going to be a heck of a race, Brady, because when you look at what's going on here in this Bandolero division over the last month or so, I mean, in my opinion, Mikey Lafort's really picked up his game. Chase Sylvia has been the dominant force, but once we get into these playoffs, anything can happen. And looks like a race between Lafort, Strickland, and Adam Harrison, who's also tied with Strickland. So it looks like those 3 in this division are going to decide who's going to advance into the playoffs.
Yeah, Lafort, I think grabbing those top 3s for a few weeks in a row really not only boosted his confidence, but it boosted him in the point standings. He's now 3rd. Joey LeMay had not a bad run, but it wasn't the consistent top 4 he was finding himself in, so he slid to 4th. So when you look at that battle between Strickland and Adam Harrison for 5th, 6th, and then Brett Robideau's only 6 points behind them. So Adam stepped up his game. Bradley stepped up his game a lot. And Brett's gotten better every week. So this is really going to come down to the case of, you know what? If Brett goes on a run, consistent top 5s, where Harrison maybe gets a top 5 and a top 7, then we're going to see a new driver. Or then Brent will be getting that last playoff spot.
Yeah. Well, so Brady just completely corrected me, and he's 100% right. Disregard that whole last statement I made. I had the wrong points in front of me. Brady, you're right. I mean, these points are a lot closer than it looked to me on the other sheet. Lafort's jumped up to 3rd, but he's only 14 points ahead of the cutoff. I mean, 3rd through 7th right now in this Bandolero division is 30 points. I mean, this is tight. You got Lafort 4 points up on LeMay for 3rd. Strickland's only 10 back of LeMay. Harrison's tied with Strickland for 5th and 6th. And then Robideau, you say, is only 6 points back. I mean, this is going to be one heck of a race in the Seekonk Grand Prix Bandolero Outlaws just to see who gets in the playoffs. And once they get in, I could make a case for a lot of these different drivers becoming champion. I mean, Chase Sylvia is obviously the favorite, given everything he's done so far in 2022. But you could certainly make a case for Andrew Gomes, who's won a race. You could make a case for Strickland, who's won a race. You could make a case for guys like Lafort, LeMay, or Harrison, who have been consistent, and if they make the Final Four, could be major contenders on that final night. So, man, exciting is going to be the name of the game here in the Seekonk Grand Prix Bandolero Outlaws, like it's going to be, Brady, and the Bandits. Darren Krantz Jr. picked up another win on Friday night and also picked up with it the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown Series Championship behind the wheel of the number 31. A great run for him once again. He's been obviously fast every week as the defending champion of this division, but Strickland in the Outlaws missing a race is kind of similar to the Bandit division, where Nick Uhrig missed a race earlier in the season due to an appendix issue. Again, 6 drivers in the Bandits. Bryson Robideau is 6th right now with 364. Nick Uhrig is 7th with 356. Robideau leads by 8 points on that cutoff over Uhrig, a guy that missed the race. So, of course, if Uhrig hadn't missed that race, yes, he'd be comfortably in. But he did, and this is the point we're at. And here again, Brady, going to be interesting here in the final 3 races leading into the playoffs. That is going to be one of the storylines for each and every race. That's what makes this very exciting. It's not just about that one race and who's going to go out there and win. It's also about where these guys are going to finish in their race to make the playoffs, which is going to be very interesting here as we get a little bit closer to the end of August.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
We've got 3.
Right.
We've got 3 weeks left. Nick is going to win one of these races.
Wow.
And he's going to get that 6th spot.
Okay, so there you go. Nick is.
And I say that with reason. Number one is that Nick's consistently had a fast car.
That's true.
And it's not to take anything away from Bryson Robideau, because Bryson has had a really good season. Nothing to take away from him at all. He's a great kid. I love talking to him in the pits. Very mature for his age. Nothing to take away from him. But at the end of the day, Nick's been more consistent.
It's true.
If Nick, you know what? If he's the pole sitter for a race, I think he's going to win. Because all he needs is a good start. All he needs is a good start. 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4. The car's fast enough, and he's just an intelligent driver, but he can get up to first. He's deserving. I think it's coming. He's come very close. He's had a couple podium finishes this year. I think he's going to get that first win. And I think he's going to we'll see him in the postseason with I think really the rest of the field is set in a way. I mean, 1 and 2, Clarence and Melania Shulowski, they're only separated by 2 points, but they're both getting in, is what I mean.
Right.
And then Ryan, Vanessa, Colin, Vanessa are both over 400 points. They're going to get in. It's that fight for the bottom where we're not sure who's going to get in, and I think Nick, unlike some other divisions that I'm looking at, is the 7. He's on the bubble outside looking in. He's going to slide up, and I think he's going to take that last spot. Like, I think that, like, an example, I think the Outlaws, for the most part, is set. For the most part.
Yeah.
Your stocks, again, I think Souza's going to take it in front of Cadera, and I think for the Sport Force, I think it's set. Where this is completely different, because as much as we're focusing, like, oh, could Shulowski be the 1? And I think Uhrig's going to slide up and be the 6. And I know we're talking about, like, you know, hey, if you get in, you get it. Yeah, that's great. Wouldn't you want to just be first?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like I was talking to Kevin Boucher about it on Friday, and he was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I said, I understand that. And you're absolutely right. But that's just an extra, like, you need that confidence. You do. Whether, you know, first, second, whatever. So, I mean, especially with Melania, like, she's had some mechanical gremlins over the last couple of weeks. She won at Waterford. She came in second. Won at Waterford this past Wednesday. Came in second this past Friday. I mean, if she runs a good race and something happens to Krantz, if she gets first, it's huge for Melania Shulowski Motorsports. That really, I'll tell you, that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I think, Brady, you're right. I think, and like I mentioned in the Pure Stocks, I think a lot of it is about the confidence of, getting there and getting out to the front of the field and, leading the championship standings, especially in these Bandolero divisions. I think it matters in these Bandolero divisions a little bit more than it would in some of our other divisions, say in the, say the Pro Stocks or the late models. The confidence there is going to be in those drivers no matter what. But when you talk about the Bandoleros, these guys breathe on confidence, and a lot of them have great confidence already. And, it's going to be really, really interesting to watch, how things shake out here as the season gets going into the end of August. Because really, as of the recording of this podcast, only 3 races to go before the Drive for the Cup begins here, and that field is set. So, Bandolero Bandit Division, as I mentioned, Darren Krantz Jr. was your Everett Auto Parts Triple Crown champion and the race winner on Friday night. Let's move on to the final Friday division, Brady, here before we welcome in Sam for the Saturday segment. And the Legend Cars division, for the first time this year, Josh Parsons parks the number 09 in victory lane, starts on the pole, leads all the laps, and wins the race. The story, the Triple Crown champion this year, is Mason Tessier. Now, Mason suffered a penalty the week prior to this and was put on probation, and that meant he had to start at the rear of the field for the 35-lap Triple Crown finale. And after 35 laps, Brady, he comes home sixth. He doesn't quite crack the top five, but the sixth-place finish was the best out of the other three, in the total of four in the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown finale. And this time, it is Mason Tessier winning this Triple Crown. Man, been an interesting month and a half here, Brady, for Mason Tessier. He's been really one of the kings of this division when you look at what they've been able to do in that Richie Helger Racing stable, with Mason picking up a couple wins and now becoming the Triple Crown champion.
It was really like he needed that win. And it was really interesting because I almost after learning that he was going to be on probation, I didn't necessarily write him off. Oh, there's no way he's going to win it. Because I honestly thought Devin DeShays was going to win the Triple Crown. And he's had a great season. But to see Mason win, it at least in my mind, it reestablished, I think you forget how good this kid is, Brady. I did. So that's my fault. Because I was almost I start rear. No, it's going to be DeShays. It's going to come down to DeShays and Reese Bogue, who, by the way, is another one of those guys. We've got 3 races left. He's going to win one of the 3. I don't care what anybody says. Now, of course, I have all of the championship standings in front of me, but the one division that's not deciding to load is an Pit Stop Legends. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Devin DeShays in first?
Yeah, Devin DeShays has got a comfortable lead over Reese Bogue. Nick Bilecki is in third, Brendan Hammond fourth, Isaiah Newcomb fifth, Mason Tessier is sixth. Those 6 drivers are, I'm going to go out on a limb here, they are locks for the playoffs, those 6.
I think so too.
Right now, 7th is Jake Sylvia with 305. Brendan LaBelle is 7 points behind him on the bubble in the 8th spot. And in 9th spot is Josh Parsons, who's coming off this big win. He's only 6 points behind Brendan LaBelle for the playoffs. And sitting only 16 points back is Richie Helger Jr. So to me, you've got a race between Jake Sylvia, Brendan LaBelle, Josh Parsons, and Richie Helger Jr. 4 drivers are going to battle for 2 spots. And Brady, if you had to ask me, this is a tough one. I mean, Parsons hasn't really shown a lot of speed all year like he used to previously in the past couple years. However, I mean, Friday night he goes out there and kicks everybody's rear end and takes down the win. So he's got speed. Jake Sylvia's been hot and cold this year. Brendan LaBelle's been hot and cold this year. And Richie Helger Jr. has kind of really gotten his feet wet well in this division, but he's going to need to, gain a couple crucial spots at the end of a race, which he hasn't quite been able to do yet. Richie, and talking with Richie, he'll say that he's been able to go out there at the beginning of a race, do the best he can, settle in, and then gain some spots over the course of the second half of the race to get a good finish. He knows in order to make these playoffs, he's going to have to step up his game to the next level just a little bit. And I don't know, tough between those 4 drivers on who might make it.
It's been a year for Helger's racing. I mean, they, all in all, have had a great season. Jeremy Lambert's had success in the pure stocks. Chase Sylvia, and, I mean, we all know what he's doing in the Outlaws. Jake Sylvia's been consistent. And I think I'm willing to say Jake Sylvia will make the playoffs. I think we can lock him in. It's that 8th spot. That's tough. And obviously, I want to see everybody make it. But I think Josh Parsons is going to steal that 8th spot. He showed speed. That's the best I've seen that car run. Obviously, he won. But seriously, I've never seen that car run better. Yeah, and I think now, momentum's on his side. Confidence is on his side. He said LaBelle's in 8th. He's been shaky. He started the season very strong. And it was all right, Brendan LaBelle. Probably win a couple races. I don't know. I think Parsons. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe LaBelle will keep it. That's going to be the closest one, I think, out of all of our divisions. Yeah, that's going to be the closest one.
I think
because I feel like in this division, Eddie, unlike some divisions, any people could say, "Oh, it's the same every division." No, it's not. In this division, especially, any driver can win on any given night. You can't say that for the Bandits because it's been 3 drivers that have completely dominated that division. You can't say that for the Outlaws because it's been 1 driver who's dominated and won most of them, and when he's not winning, he's still on the podium. The pure stock, Mike Henricks has 3, Greg Perry has 2, Danny Massa, Sam Lincoln, Ethan Souza have 1. But the legends, remember early in the year, it was that battle between him and the Deshays. They were like swapping seats in victory lane. And it was like, this is what it's going to come down to. Now, I mean, it's, my goodness, Isaiah Newcomb's in there, right? Mason Tessier finally came on. So now it's, for all I know, I don't know, somebody that hasn't even finished top 5 could come out on Friday and find themselves in victory lane. So that's why it's so hard to predict these cars. Because one week they're running great, and the next week they won't even start. You know what I mean? So I want to say that Parsons is going to steal that 8th spot, but I don't know.
It's very tough. It's just tough to kind of gauge, especially in these legends, and it can be tough in the bandos too at times on who's going to, have a strong run week after week. But it's certainly going to be, again, a side storyline here in these last 3 races leading into the playoffs. I mean, Fast Friday wise, we've got the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. And at the end of the 26th, that's it. I mean, if you're not in the top 8 at that point, you're not racing for the championship in our inaugural Seekonk Speedway drive for the Cup. So, I don't know. A lot to talk about there over the next couple of weeks in the Seekonk Grand Prix Bandolero divisions, the Helger South Coast Power Equipment Pure Stocks, the Nick's Pit Stop Legends, and, of course, in the Everett's Auto Parts Sport 4 is the name I was looking for. All right. My Brady and I have chatted your ear off for 30 minutes. We're going to take a quick break here on this week's edition of the Action Track Podcast and our Race Day Rewind. When we come back, myself and Sam Tully are going to recap NASCAR Saturday's finale of the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown Series. And I promise, while we do that, we'll try to make it a little bit shorter for you and give you the major storylines. I know a lot of you out there listening come to the podcast series to hear some analysis on where the racing's at, and we have just given you some great analysis on the Fast Friday playoff system. The only thing I can encourage is to come to the racetrack and watch it on Friday night. The young kids, the adults, everybody puts on a great show, and really something you want to come out and check out if you're enjoying listening to the podcast, and really let us know. Message one of us on Facebook and let us know what you're thinking about the playoffs. That'd be the best way for us to know who's listening and what kind of information and analysis you might be ready to hear. Quick break. We'll be right back on this week's edition of the Action Track Podcast. All right, welcome back from the break on the Seekonk Speedway Action Track Podcast, presented by, of course, here's Souza Media. My name is Kyle Souza. Thanks to Brady for joining us in the first segment to recap what took place on Fast Friday. I'm going to welcome in Sam now, and Sam's going to help me walk through Saturday night racing in the finale of the 2022 Triple Crown Series Championships. Our 4 Triple Crown champions are no survivors. What's the right word? No slouches over the course of the 2022 season in the NASCAR Saturday divisions. And Rick Martin picking up the Triple Crown title in the Chaz's Auto Body Sport Trucks. In the late model division, it is Jerry DeGasperi Jr. In the Pro Stock division, it is Dave Darling. And in the Hugger South Coast Power Equipment Sportsman, it is Chad Baxter. I almost said it is Sam Tully. It is not Sam Tully. He is not the Triple Crown champion. But let's chat with Sam here. Sam, any surprises here? Because to me, these are kind of the 4 guys I thought would have the best shot. When you look at what their history's been like over the course of this season, these drivers, I don't want to say they've been the class of the field, but in some ways, to me, they've been the class of the field here in our Saturday divisions.
Yeah, I think you definitely nailed it on the head. I mean, especially with the Sportsman division, Chad Baxter, has definitely been the hottest driver, winning 4 out of the last 5 races. So really doesn't come as a surprise that he gets the crown. Of course, Dave Darling is spooling up and finding good speed and success at the right time, right towards the end of the season for his second win. Jerry, of course, always quick. I mean, he said it himself. It's always pretty rewarding when you're able to beat guys like Charlie Rose and Jeremy Lilly for a win, but clearly Jerry knows how to get it done. And then in the sport trucks, Rick Martin for his fourth truck win of the season. Clearly the truck to beat right now, sits atop the standings. So, the average Triple Crowns, not too much of an upset, not too surprising at all.
Yeah, I mean, let's break it down here division by division and kind of where we're at.
Definitely.
So Rick Martin wins this Triple Crown Championship, kind of wins it in dominating fashion. Mike Duarte finishes second in the race, Barry Shaw Jr. third. You take a look at the truck points, though, Sam. Again, on Saturday, it's a little bit different. It's 8 drivers. Really, the only division at Seekonk that's 6 drivers is the Bandoleros, both divisions. The other ones are all 8. Here in the trucks, 8th place right now is Tommy Scully the third. He's ahead of Jake Veneta by 14 points. And to me, Sam, when you look at these truck standings, everybody else that's in the top 8 to me is a lock, except Scully on that bubble racing Veneta. I think it's going to come down to those two on who's going to make it. And I don't know. I mean, this is really tough. Jake Veneta missed one race because unfortunately he contracted the coronavirus, wasn't able to race. He also was disqualified from another race, and that cost him some points. So if you merge those two together, if he hadn't been disqualified and hadn't missed the race, he'd be pretty well locked into the championship battle. But I don't know. I mean, Scully's been showing a ton of speed lately. I'm very impressed with what I've seen out of that 5 truck course. These two guys got together racing for the lead on Saturday night and both went to the rear. Veneta was able to come back up to a top 5. Scully finished just outside the top 5. I don't know, Sam, between these two. I'm not really sure on who's going to be the champion of this race for 8th. It's like its own championship in its own, but I just don't know. I'm not sure on this one.
Yeah, you're taking all the words out of my mouth, but certainly on Saturday, the race to watch, the battle to watch in the sport trucks was between Scully and Veneta. Scully went into the weekend with a 19-point lead over Veneta, and they started first and third, respectively. Scully was on the pole and Veneta inside second row, and they battled for 9 laps, and Scully leading every one of them. And then they got together, both got sent to the rear, so they had to battle their way through the field together. And Scully, he's doing what he needs to, right? He basically just needs to finish. He needs to keep pace with Veneta over the next 3 weeks to nurse this 14-point lead home. Of course, heat points help and will play a factor going down the stretch. I believe Veneta earned 1 more heat point than Scully did, so that factored in. And Veneta was able to make up just 5 points on Scully. So 14 points, though, is definitely a slim margin over the course of 3 weeks when you consider Scully. His best finish of the season is 7th. He's done that twice now, and the first time he did that was actually when Veneta got disqualified, bumping Scully up to 7th. So it's all coming full circle here, but we've seen Veneta get into the top 5 a few times here, and certainly he's capable of doing that a couple of more times down the stretch. So if Veneta can do that, Scully's really going to have to rise to the task and maybe get himself his first top 5 of the season if he wants to hold off Veneta till the end of August.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really very rare that I'm speechless, but I'm kind of speechless about this race. I have no idea who out of the two of them is going to make it. My gut tells me that this is going to come down to the final couple laps right there on the final final Saturday night of August, and it's just going to be decided right then. And I think that's a fair assessment. So we'll see. You know, it's still a couple weeks to go before we get there. Anything can happen. Amy Arsenault's 20 points to the good right now. Technically, by math, I mean, my math is not great, but by math, she could she could have a couple of bad weeks and fall out. It's certainly possible.
Yeah,
I don't see.
She's certainly not a lock either.
Yeah,
she just needs to make sure she's finishing races decently. I mean, even top 10s, I think, are going to do her just. As long as, she's not finishing back the pack, she should be safe.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to gauge this division and hard to see where it's going. in the middle of the pack. I think up front it's pretty clear. Rick Martin, Barry Shaw, Mike Duarte, Brittany Campbell. Those 4 trucks have been the best trucks all year. There's been, times where other trucks have gone out there and ran well, but really it's been Martin 4 wins, Shaw's got multiple, Duarte's got a win, and Brittany's got a win. They've been the best trucks most of the year. So we'll see. Sport trucks are back in action this Saturday night for a 25-lap feature, so make sure you check that out. Helger South Coast Power Equipment Sportsman were also on the track for their Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown finale. We mentioned at the beginning of this segment that it was Chad Baxter taking down the Triple Crown title, Sam, and no surprise, really, that Baxter was able to go out there and do it. Beats Pianka, passes him for the lead somewhere around the halfway point, and in all honesty, and I've said it before here on the podcast, we're very blatantly honest, this was a rough race, Sam. I mean, these guys have been rough out there, really hammering each other hard, and Baxter and Pianka, weren't friendly with each other, racing for the lead. They traded some paint. They didn't wreck, but there was definitely some contact there, and it's interesting to see how much contact we've seen at times over the course of the season in this division. But in the end, you take a look at how it all shook out, and no surprise for Chad Baxter to go out there, Sam, and really kick everybody's rear end again. Man, ever since he's got that car back in the middle of the season, he's been a dominant force, and finally got a nice wrap on that car this week. It looked great, and holds the Triple Crown titles. Not much else there, I think, Sam. It's just been one of those years so far again. 2 in a row years maybe for Chad Baxter to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, this Sportsman race had a lot to offer. A lot of exciting action. First of all, shout out to Cody Tripp. Started on the pole, held off the likes of Craig Pianka, Chad Baxter, Ed Perry, all those guys for a solid 10 laps at least in the beginning. He led it a handful of laps and was able to notch a top 8, which I believe was Tripp's first top 10 ever in that division. So just got to give a quick shout out to Cody. But then you have the on-track battle to watch, and I wrote about it a little bit in the weekly recap. You had Adam Petty, who had quite a deficit going into the weekend on the outside looking into Tyler Almeida. You had Adam Petty 24 points below Almeida, who is the bubble driver. And Petty started at the rear. Meanwhile, Tyler Almeida, I think, started on the pole. And you had Adam Petty trending forward the entire race and Tyler Almeida doing the exact opposite. And they crossed paths around lap 20-something, and Adam Petty sent a 3-wide move to the inside of Tyler Almeida and Kyle Casper, and Almeida eventually ended up bowing out, I think, on lap 22, and Petty raced all the way up to a top 3. So Petty did all he needed and more to make up the gap and earn himself the bubble spot, now with a 3-point advantage over Almeida. So that was certainly a pretty, dare I say, the drive of the night executed by Adam Petty right there, doing what he needed to. And boy, it's fun to watch that kid race too.
Yeah, Adam Petty's definitely one of the drivers out there that's got one of the more surprising amounts of car control. He's very, very good with his car, can take a lot of abuse, and really hang on. And here's the other part of it. He can give a lot of abuse, and most of the time that he's giving the abuse, he's not spinning somebody out while he's giving them the abuse. He's just kind of giving back what they gave him, or racing aggressively to get to the front, and it works for him more often than not. So, Petty's one of the more exciting drivers in this division. You mentioned that 8th spot. He's back in. I mean, Petty had a couple of disqualifications this year and looked for a while like he wasn't going to make the playoffs, but here we are with 3 weeks to go, and he leads Tyler Almeida by just 3 points in this race for the 8th spot. Really, Sam, in my opinion, it's going to come down to a couple of drivers here. Outside of 8th is Almeida in 9th. Pepe Jimmy Sylvia is more than a race worth of points out in 10th. So I don't see him getting in. Looks like Colby Lambert, Steve Axon, Scott Sirodinsky are in a little bit of danger if they have a bad week or two. But to me, it's between Petty and Almeida. And everything I've seen here, Sam, unfortunately for Tyler Almeida, I just don't see him being able to outrun Adam Petty here in the next 3 or 4 weeks to get himself back in.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Almeida, these these less than ideal finishes seem to be piling up. He was off to the races earlier on this season. I think he was up as high as, when I started tracking, he was up as high as fourth in the points by about week 5, I want to say. And, he backslid, and then he made up a couple of spots, and then now he's doing the bubble dance, which definitely do not want to be doing the bubble dance this late in the season, especially when you're competing with Adam Petty. I think it's worth mentioning, too, that Almeida definitely suffered a little bit of front-end damage. There was a early stack up that stayed green between the leaders. Basically, Almeida was the short end of the stick on the accordion effect. He got into the back of Steve Axon. Axon was 5th and Almeida was 6th. And clearly you could see that Hood kinked a little bit. Haven't had a chance to chat with Ty yet, so not sure if he was suffering from overheating or not going to speculate, but clearly the car could not finish the competition. So, it's not going to say that it was any fault of his own pure driving ability. Certainly he had to deal with adversity. But I think if Almeida can stay out of trouble on track, start towards the front and salvage a couple of strong finishes. And we kind of alluded to how Petty can race. It's a lot of fun to watch him race, but if Petty ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time, he's definitely finished towards the end of the running order. You could see both of them swapping back and forth for that bubble again. So that's really going to be the one to watch in the Sportsman's for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Sportsman division is going to be one of our more interesting chases here as we get a little bit closer to the drive for the Cup presented by Sunoco Race Fuel. So, congrats to Chad Baxter. No surprise, back in victory lane. And let's move on to the late model division. Everett Auto Parts Triple Crown Championship had eluded Jerry DeCaspari Jr., who is a 7-time track champion at Seekonk Speedway. And no more, Sam, for the eluding part. Jerry goes out on the track and picks up the feature win and picks up the Everett Auto Parts Triple Crown Series Championship in 2022. And I'm not surprised here, Sam. I thought this race was going to come down to a couple of drivers. Really, all 4 of them had a good shot in this division. This was probably our most stacked Final Four in our Triple Crown Championship races for me. You had Jerry, who obviously went out there and won it. You had Richie Murray, who's been running very well inside the top 5, had a good chance at winning it. You had Chase Belcher, who's got 2 wins and had just picked up a win about a week ago or so, and had a good chance at winning. And then Vinny Renegado, who's really struggled lately, but you can't count him out. And in the end, it's really no contest. I mean, Jerry got out front pretty quickly. Richie got to 2nd place. Jerry got to 3rd. Jerry went by Richie, and it was really no contest from there to battle for this Triple Crown. So I'm not surprised, overly surprised at least. Jerry is a very, very fierce competitor, a very, very fast car. And, no surprise, Sam, here. I don't think that Jerry is your Triple Crown champion. Congrats to him for the first time in his career winning this Triple Crown title, which is like an extra incentive, which is always good for a driver.
Yeah, always good to get that little incentive at the end of the night. So congrats to Jerry. But a lot to say about this race and the points battle as well. First, gotta mention, I was watching the race replay yesterday, and Richie Murray and Vinny Renegado, if you were not there on Saturday, or if you haven't watched the race replay yet, if you're listening, they put on a clinic when it comes to short track racing. They were crossing each other up, back and forth, swapping. I don't know what they were battling for, maybe 5th, but perfectly timed crossover moves, just fitting the nose right under that rear bumper cover, exactly how short track late model racing should be. That is what short track racing is all about, and those 2 guys it's so much fun to watch those guys race cleanly, competitively. I just had to shout that out. Totally worth watching the race replay, as it always is every week, because they always put on a great show. As far as the points battle goes, going into this week, and last week when I was writing the Drive for the Cup update, I was like, man, points battle's kind of close inside the top 8, but other than that, you have Hedges 44 points outside of the top 8, beneath Paul Lallier. Jeremy Lilly was on the bubble last week. So I was like, I don't know how much there's going to be to write about this one. And then you go into this weekend, and it was critical. Paul Lallier getting the bad luck, and lap 4, which, by the way, the beginning of this race was caution laden. I think we had 4 restarts in the first 4 laps. And Lallier didn't even really get to see the incident, and I think the replay that we posted doesn't quite catch it either, but lost control of his late model up into turn 1. Didn't even look like he hit the wall that hard, but ultimately ended his night, and Hedges was able to make up a lot of ground on the bubble as a result. Went in 44 points out, now just 20 points out. And I know we were starting to write off Hedges from being able to have some playoff hopes, but his first week back after missing the last 2 feature races, and he made up more than half of his deficit, and Hedges can be scary consistent. He was top 3 in the points before his absence, and he can churn out those top 5s like no other. So Hedges did exactly what he needed to do with the 7th place finish. Big beneficiary from Paul Lallier finishing all the way down the running order. And Hedges is right back in this thing.
I hate to burst Sam's bubble. He just went through all that, and Josh will not be running any more races until the playoffs. Unfortunately, for those fans who don't know, Josh unfortunately has a work commitment. He's been out of town. That's why he missed some of the races. He actually flew back to race in the Triple Crown finale just because he was missing racing. But unfortunately, he's going to miss a couple more weeks here as we lead into the playoffs. So, given that, Sam, let's give a new insight.
I really thought he was going to be back for some. That conflicts with info I got, but I trust you. You're the plug, so you definitely know what's going on.
Unfortunately, again, Josh, you mentioned scary consistent, really consistent at the beginning of the year. However, if you look at the battle now for 8th, Sam, I think it's pretty well set here in the late models. If Josh doesn't run any more races, those are going to be your 8 drivers. It's going to be Richie Murray, who leads the points right now, Jerry DeGasperi, Vinny Renegado, Mark Jennison, Chase Belcher, Jeremy Lilly, Jacob Burns, and Paul Lallier. Picking a champion out of there, no idea. I have no idea how that would shake out. All 8 of them I could see doing it. Lallier's the one where I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a stretch. Jeremy Lilly, yeah, he could. He's been consistent. To me, you're going to have to win that last race to win the championship. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Murray's shown he can win. DeGasperi's shown he can win. Renegado's shown he can win. Jennison hasn't won in the late models, but he's won in the pro stocks. Belcher's got 2 wins. Burns shown he can win, but Burns has been on an awful slide here, Sam. The last couple of weeks, it's just not gone his way at all. Last week he was basically black flagged and parked for the night. I mean, I'm not sure if he can get himself back in the more. I think the mental game there might be a factor for him to try to get himself mentally prepared to go into these playoffs. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's those 8 guys picking a champion. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. A lot of great drivers that could win on any given night. Jerry's fast. Vinny's fast. They're all fast. I mean, I could even see a Chase Belcher if things go right on that second to last race of the season. Chase Belcher ending up in the top 4 for the championship night. Just gonna have to wait and see. Yeah. But as far as the top 8, sounds like we're pretty locked in if Hedges truly will not be back. Man, gotta say, that's a disappointment because that bubble race was looking like it was about to heat up. But I guess not.
Yeah, certainly still going to be interesting as we run these final 3 races to see if anything crazy goes on. The whole other part to this playoff system, Sam, is remember on that final weekend of racing, if somebody wins the feature race that's run all the races this year and is not in the top 8, they will be added as a 9th driver. So, for example, Reese Bogue is 11th in points right now. There's no way he's going to make the top 8 unless there's a miracle. However, if he was to go out there and win that final race of the season in the regular season, he would be inside the playoffs and make a 9th driver. So you have to consider that as well a little bit here. as we look forward to what could come on in the next couple of weeks, and see if somebody will be able to do that in any of our divisions, not just the late model. So, yeah, very interesting, and good insight there from Sam on what he's kind of seeing as we move forward in this late model division. Final race of the night Saturday was the Pro Stock division, Sam, and in the end, no surprise here. I was a little bit surprised at how dominant he was in this race, though I shouldn't be, because it was Dave Darling taking down the championship in the Everett's Auto Parts Triple Crown while also picking up the feature win. No surprise here, Sam. Like I say, a little bit of a surprise in how dominant, but no surprise to us that he's able to go out there and win this Triple Crown. And really, you're right. He's hitting everything on the right cylinder at the right time, and this could really shake out well for him as we head for this playoff stretch.
Yeah, I think it was just another case of Dave being able to get out into clean air once he got his way around Rick Martin. Of course, Mike Brightman and Tom Scully were up there as well, all battling early on. But once Dave Darling cleared, it was good racing early on. Rick Martin leading laps early, and Dave Darling looking for a way around. Ultimately, kind of lost the inside when Mike Brightman got to the inside of him, all still right behind Rick Martin. And then Dave Darling just able to find grip and make speed everywhere he needs to with that Pro Stock, and pass for the outside. And it was pretty much smooth sailing for Darling from then on. Scully and Brightman continued to battle, and at times setting identical pace to Darling as they battled, which says a lot. But other than a couple of restarts mid and late race, nothing could really upset the speed of that 52 with Dave Darling. He was able to just pick right up where he left off and keep growing that lead, and ultimately came home with his second feature win of the season and the Triple Crown to boot. So great drive for the 52.
Yeah, good analysis there as well. That pretty well took the words out of my mouth. The Pro Stock Championship race for the 8th spot is pretty tight. Rick Martin leads Kenny Spencer by just 5 points. However, we've seen that Spencer's really struggled this year, Sam, so I don't know about for you, but for me, I feel like the Pro Stock top 8 is pretty well set, barring an issue for one of these guys. Rick Martin really is the only one that is in danger, in my opinion, of falling out, and I just don't see it happening. I haven't seen enough from Kenny Spencer here, Sam, to think that he's going to be able to drive around Rick Martin and make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, barring Rick, I know Rick Martin's sat out one, if not two, Pro Stock features this season. So unless that happens again in the next 3 weeks, Kenny's going to have to really keep pace with that 14 car if he wants to hope. I mean, if it's any consolation, 5 points is not that big of a hurdle. But, Rick has shown that he can finish top 5, top 3 in this Pro Stock division, which is, it's one of our smaller divisions, but still not easy to notch a top 5 when you're going up against guys like Brightman, Darling, Pellant, Jennison, Adams. I mean, it's stacked field up towards the top half of the points. But, I haven't had a chance to talk to Kenny Spencer in a few weeks. It's just sort of baffling, this string of less than optimal performances. I mean, Spencer was battling for 6th for up until towards the end of the race. And actually, I forget when. I think he maybe bowed out lap 20 or so. And it just, I don't know if something's breaking on that car, but clearly ill handling. Yeah, Spencer completed 46 laps, finished 11th, and boy, that thing was bad loose coming off of 4 a couple of times. I was looking at the passenger side door of that car a little more than I wanted to see of it, and unfortunately, just things not going right for Kenny. And then the only other driver to the bad of the bubble is Danny Tebow, who had a pretty efficient night as far as jumping up the point standings goes. He was able to jump up from 12th to 10th, but still pretty decent deficit, 47 points below the bubble, which he went into the weekend 49 points. So was able to make ground by 2, but still pretty big lift with 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to get in. And again, I personally feel like that's your top 8. And when you come to the championship 4, I think for me, it's Dave Darling, Mike Brightman, Tom Scully Jr., and I don't know. There's a fourth driver in there somewhere that I think is going to make it. Obviously, somebody else is going to make it. But I think those are the top three for me, Sam. I think they've shown all year they've got the best cars. And, yeah, we'll see how it shakes out when we get to the playoffs. Let's try something here. Brady, are you still with us here in the Action Track podcast?
Yes, I am.
Brady is still with us. All right, as we wrap up this week's edition of the Race Day Rewind, Brady, what are you looking forward to here? We move into Friday. We got 3 weeks to go leading into this playoff stretch. Is there anything in maybe pick out one thing in one division? Is there something that's in your brain that you can see as an overarching thing people should watch going into this Friday night?
The fights for those last playoff spots. Because across every division, there are many drivers, and I know I've said this 4 times, and I'll say it again. There are many drivers who could come up and snatch a spot away. So, that's what I'm more looking forward to compared to the top, because I think for a majority of our divisions, first place is set. Not all, but I think for the most part, first place is set. And I'm also looking to see if Chase Sylvia can continue his run of dominance, because if he can make it 8 out of 11, good Lord, that is amazing.
Yeah, he's been really, really impressive to watch this year, and I agree because some good storylines there for Friday. Sam, what about on Saturday night here? We got 3 weeks to go. Coming up this Saturday night, we have the pit party from 4:30 to 5:30. That's when the fans can meet and greet with the drivers and see the cars and touch the cars up close and personal. We've also got the annual Fans on Parade, which I don't think either of you have been part of in your life, and that is a hectic event in itself and a hilarious showing most times. And we've got, of course, the 4 races on the track with the Pro Stocks, the late models, the Sportsman, and the trucks. I think there's a lot of stories there. For me, I'm looking at this late model division to see if anybody else can go out there and make it 2 wins. Right now, Jerry DeCaspari and Chase Belcher are multiple-time winners, and can anybody go out there and try to pull it off?
Well, definitely looking forward to the pit party. That'll be a first for me, so sure it'll be a great time on Saturday. Yeah, a lot of stuff to watch out for. I guess for me, I've certainly been fixated on the battle between Tom Scully III and Jake Veneta in Sport Trucks. I think it's going to come down to heat points. Definitely a big part of it. Can Scully go out there and win a heat, get 5 points to bank going into a feature, and can he outdo himself this season? Can he get that first top 5 and keep pace with Veneta? That's certainly going to be something to watch for, watching that race on the Sport Trucks on Saturday. And then the Sportsman's, again, another razor-thin margin. Tyler Almeida, he's shown speed and consistency earlier on this season, and he's going to need to keep pace and outdo Adam Petty over the next 3 weeks. So that's going to be another one to watch as well. Of course, great points battles heating up. You definitely burst my bubble on the late models. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Bill Goodrow, I know he's 54 points out, and it's his first season back, I think, after many years away from racing consistently. He starts up front quite often, but he's still trying to figure out and get a feel for his late model. So I know the weeks are winding down here, but if Bill can keep that late model towards the front of the field, he could potentially start eating into his deficit if Lallier or Burns have another bad points week. So that's something that I'm always looking out for as well when the late models roll off. And then the Pro Stocks, can Kenny Spencer avoid mechanical gremlins? Can he get himself up towards the front half of the pack and try and keep pace with Rick Martin as we go down the stretch?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of storylines on both nights across both our Fast Friday and our NASCAR Saturday platform. And the only way for you to really figure out what's going on earlier than listening to it here on the podcast is to come down the track. So come down and join us Friday night, August 12th, Fast Friday with 5 divisions of racing. It's just $10 to get in the gate for adults. And Saturday night, August 13th. Again, our pit party from 4:30 to 5:30. So plan to get there a little bit early this week, 4:30 or so. Come on in the pits, join the pit party, meet the stars and cars of Seekonk Speedway, and then we'll have our fans on parade in intermission. And of course, again, we've got 4 exciting divisions of NASCAR Saturday racing going on as we get closer to that inaugural Seekonk Speedway Drive for the Cup presented by Sunoco Race Fuel. Before we let you go, the only other thing we want to say, buy your tickets online at SeekonkSpeedway.com. You can skip the lines on race day. We've got some great events coming up Friday and Saturday this week. Sunday, we've got the monster trucks in town for the second time this year. Definitely buy your tickets ahead for that, as that has sold out previously. So get your tickets for Sunday, August 14th, and the monster trucks. We've got a great card of racing coming up this weekend and the rest of the weekends leading through the month of September. And we want to see you at the races for sure. Thanks to Brady and Sam, especially thanks to Brady for sticking around here while Sam and I rambled on for a little bit and joining us in the final segment. Also want to thank all the listeners and thank Ed for pushing all the buttons to help us put it together behind the scenes and get it out to the public. And we will talk to you soon on the Seekonk Speedway Action Track Podcast. Thanks to Sam and Brady. Thanks to the listeners. I'm Kyle, and we'll see you at the track coming up this weekend.